Hello. Okay, so matter. What is it? It's stuff. Oh, that's very scientific. Yeah. All right, so is that matter? Yep, it's gross matter, but it's matter. What about space, stars, all that kind of stuff? Well, I guess space isn't. But yes, so that stuff, matter? Yeah. What about that building? Yeah, matter. What about that thing? Earth. Yep, matter. Everything made out of matter. So even this guy? Yeah. He's made up of magic matter that allows him to float. What about you? Yep. Even you're made out of matter. Okay, everything is made up out of matter, and it's made up of these very, very tiny chunks called atoms. There are only 100 and some different kinds. That's pretty amazing to think about all the different things that are made up out of just those 100 and some different kinds of atoms, okay? So if you had some super small tweezers and could grab these little chunks, that'd be pretty neat. But also, when we talk about matter and sort of classifying it, there are different, you could describe matter in a couple different ways, okay? So when we talk about that, we're talking about matter classification, so it should go in that portion of your lecture notes, okay? So if you had what we would call a pure substance, that would mean each of those tiny chunks that you could tweeze out would be exactly the same. Okay, so let's look at an example. So, like if you had like a pure sample of water, that would mean that each of those little chunks of water that you could tweeze out, they would look like this. No, they wouldn't. But they would be H2O molecules. They would all be the same if it's pure. There's nothing else in there that makes them up. Okay? If you had what we would call an impure substance, like, say, that gross-looking thing, that would mean that with your super rad, awesome tweezers, you could grab the little chunks of matter and would be able to grab different types of chunks. So, for example, you could grab strawberry gross chunks. You could also grab chocolate delicious chunks, okay? But they would be made out of different things, okay? So that's the difference between a pure and an impure substance. So an impure substance is composed of two or more pure substances, and the fancy name for that is a mixture. That's a mixture because there's some water and some other stuff in there. You could use your tweezers to grab different stuff. That's a mixture because you could use your tweezers to grab sink or stove or whatever. Okay, if you can visually differentiate between the different components, these are called phases, of a mixture, it is called, whoops, a heterogeneous mixture. Maybe it'll go back to that in a second. Let's see. Yes, it is called a heterogeneous mixture. And you can think of that, what does that prefix mean? Hetero, it means different, okay? If we mix something like, say, water and sugar and lemonade, it equals, oh, delicious lemonade. Okay, this is a different type of mixture. You can still pluck out some water, some lemonade stuff, some lemon, but we call it a homogeneous mixture or a homogeneous mixture because it appears the same throughout. And think of that prefix homo. That means that it says the same. Okay, it appears the same throughout, and even though you know it isn't, because you could use the super rad test, but you can't really differentiate visually between the different phases. These are called solutions. That's a fancy name for homogeneous mixture. All right, I should start talking faster. Remember? If you had a pure substance, that would mean each of those tiny chunks that you could tweeze would be exactly the same. Okay, if the chunks of the pure substance are made up of one type of atom, like those are made up of just gold. See? Look. Those are identical. It is an element. Okay, so an element is made up of one type of atom. If each identical chunk of the pure substance is made up of a fixed ratio of atoms, like that. Ooh, let's see if we can finish this off. It is called a compound. Okay, so what we mean by a fixed ratio is like H2O is made up of 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen atom. Each of these chunks of a compound is called a, you guessed it, molecule. Is that it? Okay, so that's how we classify the different types of matter. Stop.